What do you say when culture feels like a political minefield, especially if you're a pastor? I mean, I'm really serious about this. You're prepping for a sermon, then a national tragedy hits, or a new law passes, or social media is blowing up about something, and now the people are looking at you, Pastor. Are we going to say something? That's what people are asking, right? Are we going to say something, or are we just going to let this go? Are we going to say something about this publicly? Are you going to preach about this on Sunday? And just like that, right? Sunday isn't just about teaching the Bible, it's about navigating outrage and opinions and assumptions and division, all in 30 minutes or less. Welcome to the cultural pressure. I don't know if it's worse today than it's ever been. I suspect it's not easier than it's ever been because it feels like everything is outrageous now. Everything is extreme and everything is politicized, including the local church. If you're feeling that, well, first thing you need to know, you are not alone. And second, there are things you can do to navigate this pressure. For pastors, really silence feels kind of risky. But speaking up, that actually feels even riskier. I've done both in my tenure as a lead pastor. There were moments where I felt the need to kind of speak up. And of course, some people were upset by that. There were other times I didn't say anything and people were upset by that. Of course, if you're getting into this job to make everyone happy, that's a terrible reason to be a pastor. But we don't want to offend people. We don't want to run people off unnecessarily, especially people who are young in their faith or who are exploring faith. You know what happens, right? I mean, one sentence gets misunderstood. It just takes one phrase, right, to get clipped out of context, one theological nuance, and gets flattened into a political slogan. And then suddenly, you're not leading a congregation; you're kind of refereeing a culture war. But there's a kind of deeper problem with this too. Everyone expects you, as the pastor, in real time to respond with perfect clarity, perfect nuance, perfect empathy, and definitely no controversy, or at least if you're going to create one, you take their side. In fact, when people ask you, are you going to say something about this? What they're really asking is, are you going to say what I think about this? Forgetting that there are two sides to every one of these conversations. So it's just not realistic, right? But it is real. So what do you do? What do you do when everything is politicized? Everything in culture feels dangerous to talk about? Well, here's a shift that I think we could consider. Instead of picking a side, what if you, and this is going to sound a little churchy, but just hang with me. What if you instead picked up that shepherd's staff? I know that you're a leader, you're a pastor, but you're called to be a shepherd. And a shepherd is not a passive role. It's a very active, a very leadership oriented role. And the staff was used by the shepherd for lots of leadership. When culture gets really loud, your people, they don't need your congregation. They don't need another pundit. They do not need, and please hear me say this, they do not need your local church, you on the stage. They don't need you to sound like their, Monday night news, cable news channel. They need you to sound like a pastor, like a shepherd. That's what they need. They need a pastor. They need a voice that's rooted in scripture, that's clothed in compassion and confident in kingdom truth. So what's the best way to do that? Well, I call it the 4 R's framework. When culture is challenging, when everything gets politicized, when there's a moment where you feel like you need to speak in, but you're not sure how, use these 4 R's as you consider how to do it. Here's the first one. You recognize the humanity in this tension. This isn't an issue. This is about people. Every problem, issue, tension involves people. So we want to bring the humanity to the conversation. We want to acknowledge the emotion of it. We really want to make sure that we recognize that complexity doesn't mean we have to compromise, but it is human. It's a human issue, not a political issue, not a cultural issue. We have to recognize that. That's number one, recognize. Number two, we want to reframe this conversation or the statements that we're making. We want to reframe it through a kingdom lens. We don't want to just quote sculpture. We want to, we don't want to quote culture. We want to call people to something higher, the kingdom, right? We want to set our hearts and minds on the things above, not the things of this world. So we want to reframe the conversation, reframe the topic, reframe this cultural moment. Number three, we always want to reflect Christ's character, which was humble but clear. It was compassionate, it was not reactionary. It was always proactively pointing to something bigger. And that's how we want to be. We want to be humble, which in a way is more bold than what a lot of us would consider boldness. We need to be clear, but we have to do it through the lens of a compassionate. Again, remember, we're recognizing the humanity of this tension. So we want to do it in a way that's compassionate. We don't want to be reactionary to it. In fact, we want to be thoughtful. We don't want to just react to this cultural moment. We really want to prayerfully consider how to reflect Christ's character in this cultural moment. And then the fourth one, and this is obvious, but we want to redirect back to the gospel because that's our mission. Remember, you're a local church. You're a pastor in a local community of a local church. Your mission is not politics. Your mission isn't culture. Your mission is the Great Commission, which involves engaging with culture. It involves engaging with these tragedies that happen or the big political or politicized moment on social media in the week. But doesn't mean that that's the mission of your church. You can use anything to point back to the gospel. And that's how we should treat these moments. We should always point back to the gospel. Every issue, right, may be different, but the hope is always the exact same. So 4 R's: recognize, reframe, reflect, and then redirect back to the gospel. This framework, it doesn't like guarantee you applause for sure, but it does guard your integrity and it allows you to shepherd people really, really well, all people, whether they're on either side of the aisle, whether they're on either side of the political debate, whether they're on either side of the social media issue that's blowing up in your community. So here's my challenge for you, and not just this week, because this is going to go on forever and probably for the rest of your pastoral life. Here's my challenge for you. Don't avoid the tension, but don't cave to the pressure. Step into the moment with the heart of a shepherd, not the fear of a critic. Don't give in to the, are we going to say something about this? Instead, proactively decide you're going to reflect, you're going to engage those 4 R's of that framework to speak truth into this moment with compassion. You don't need to win any arguments. That's not what we're trying to do. What we're trying to do is lead people into a more growing relationship with Jesus. And you know this as well as anybody. In a divided culture, that kind of leadership isn't just needed, it is kingdom critical. Until next time.